Babe starring Ilana Glazer, A Broad City, and Survival of the Thickest star Michelle Buteau, and also directed by Pamela Adlon of Better Things, depicts the changes a person goes through once they have kids from both the romantic perspective of how things change between you and your romantic partner, and also platonic relationships as we see between Glazer's character and also Buteau's. So to summarize the film, Eden and Dawn have been friends since they were about 11, and about 20 years or so later, things have drastically changed. Eden is still very much single, living in and around Astoria, where they're from, while Dawn has gotten married to a man named Marty. She's on her second child. She's a dentist, and she is trying to thrive out on the Upper West Side. This for Eden isn't the ideal situation. I mean, not her getting married to Marty or having kids, because Marty recognizes that Eden will always be Dawn's first love. But the issue is that Eden has to not only travel, but she is increasingly having to compete, and it's hard for her. And it especially becomes hard after a one night stand leads to her getting pregnant, and she's thinking just as she was there for Dawn throughout her pregnancies, Dawn would do the same for her. But as timing shows, while Dawn very much loves Eden and in times want to support her, at the same time, Dawn is coming to that point where she doesn't have the ability to be everything for everyone because she has a newborn, potentially postpartum depression. Things are changing too much. Money's always an issue, and while Eden isn't necessarily somebody who seems to be a trust fund baby, have like no worries at all, it becomes clear that while the relationship has been long, and for the most part, Eden has been a very fun time providing drugs and good times, as things get serious, Dawn may not be able to continue to be both a best friend, sister figure, and maternal figure to Eden. So getting to the review section, our first highlight is Eden's attachment and actions pretty much make sense and don't kind of make you look at Eden side eye. And the reason why we feel this way is because while Glazer usually plays these really eccentric characters, when it comes to babes, I feel that with Eden being presented as an only child, her mother being dead, her dad being absent, and Dawn allowing herself to be pretty much everything to Eden, it makes sense that when it comes to their relationship, she has a strong attachment to her. As we noted, at best they're like sisters, at worst Dawn is like a maternal figure, and with that, so comes Eden, of course, wanted to spend the most time with her, wanted to be part of everything in terms of, being in the room when her second child's being born and probably being there for the first child, and really just showing that in many ways this is a dependency, but it's also a friendship. And as we'll go into later, this doesn't mean that Dawn is a magical Negro who's just there at Eden's beck and call, but I feel like when it comes to babes, it really shows you how important it is to have friends who make you feel seen, who make you feel whole, and also validate you in ways that allow you to be yourself, but at the same time they hold you accountable enough so that they don't enable bad behavior. And touching on that a little bit more, because Michelle Buteau is this usual loving figure that she often plays that's very positive and bubbly, it could be easy to assume that she plays that best friend, magical Negro type character, but that's not the case here. As said in the summary, Dawn is going through a lot. She's starting to crack a little bit because there's a lot of pressure, and Eden is not somebody who she's willing to potentially break for. And to me, that keeps her from becoming that magical Negro. I do whatever makes you feel better at the cost of myself, because as Dawn has her priorities straight, are her kids okay? Is her relationship with her man okay? Is the job that pays the bills good? If it ain't, she gotta focus on one thing or the other to make sure that's good before she can start even thinking about pouring into Eden and making sure she's all right. And of course that causes issues, as you could expect in a film like this, but At the very least, it makes it so that Dawn is a whole ass person with her own issues, her own priorities away from Eden, and it makes you feel a bit more comfortable with the dynamics that are there, especially since this film easily could come off like it's gonna live in the precedents that we often see when it's a black character who's the best friend to a white character who's a little bit boundary pushing, depending how you want to look at it. Which leads to the next highlight, which is also something that was a little bit unexpected, and that's just the men don't play punching bags or the bad guys here. For it could be very easy to imagine with Eden's dad having agoraphobia, Eden's baby father acting as he did at one time, Marty and even Dr. Morris, who's the OBGYN for Eden, I think he was also Dawn's. There are men here who could easily become a punching bag, either in terms of Dr. Morris explaining the female anatomy, what women go through for pregnancy, and a mansplaining joke being put in there. Marty could have been some type of guy who maybe wasn't provided in terms of financially, but not supporting the kids. When it comes to Claude, who is the father of Eden's kid, they could have really done him dirty. Or even when it comes to Daniel, not Daniel, his name's Bernie. Eden's dad's name Bernie. They could have really gone into him not supporting his daughter, him really not stepping up and pushing beyond his agoraphobia, but this film doesn't do that. They allowed the women to be flawed people and to be given grace, and the same is done for the men. Marty is a good father, good provider, good husband, but just like Dawn, he's cracking a bit. This is a lot to have 2 kids. The first one was going well, seemed like he was okay, so like a few parents that I know, they think, yeah, we can handle second one, and no, they're starting all over again, and it's driving them nuts. In terms of Bernie, he has a mental illness where going outside causes him real bad anxiety, and the film allows him to have this anxiety without being damned for it, which I appreciate. And then when it comes to Claude, he's a black guy. After a one-night stand, he kind of seems to disappear, but the film explains it in a way that allows you to let it go, give him grace, and keep it moving. And lastly, with Dr. Morris, he's balanced. He's guiding Eden through the birthing process, pregnancy as well, and he doesn't come off condescending. He definitely shows some annoyance, but at the same time, again, everybody's allowed to be human. Everybody's allowed to be flawed. Everyone's also allowed to be right in certain circumstances. For what Babe seems to do, similar to Pamela Adlon's Better Things, is it wants to show you real people dealing with situations. And yes, there's a tinge of humor to it. Perhaps some laugh to keep them crying, but overall, these are real people dealing with situations that anyone can go through. This isn't some sitcom, random circumstance type stuff. And while Adlon's method isn't documentary style, it's very much rooted in, yes, this is scripted, but it's not so far off base that you can't relate to the situation or even see yourself in it based on what you've gone through. The last highlight for us is just illuminating what happens during pregnancy, warts and all. Now, to be clear, this film does not show a baby coming out of someone's vagina. This film doesn't show the placenta coming out, somebody taking a crap after or during the birthing process. It doesn't get that far. It doesn't go to that level. But it definitely shows you the issues some women have with lactating in terms of breast pumping or providing milk. It shows potential postpartum issues, how friendships change, how relationships change. It talks about a needle that apparently has to go into your stomach, which it makes me glad I don't have a uterus. And it's just, again, Pamela Adlon in my mind, if her name's attached to something, it's about showing you real people going through real things with a sense of humor about it. And that's pretty much what Babes is about. It wants you to see all aspects of pregnancy, from conception to actually raising a child, and all the different parts of that change in a person's life. The change of Eden and Dawn's friendship and how that dynamic changes when Dawn's focus is now split between one man, one young boy, and I believe she had a daughter, so now she has to focus on two kids that are completely reliant on her and her husband who she loved enough to make children with, as well as this best friend who she's been with for nearly more than half of her life, which is a challenge. Then with Eden, she has to deal with the fact that she doesn't have a mother. It doesn't seem like she's close to anybody on her mother's side or her father's side. And her dad, while she could perhaps bring the child to him, unfortunately, outside of that, if Dawn is not there for her, she is a single parent in the worst way because she will have no real support system. And again, this movie is very much about trying to show you a realistic depiction of what it means to have kids, and show it's not necessarily for the meek, but if you find the right tribe, if you are the type of person who can handle it, it can be a beautiful, life-changing thing. Overall, when it comes to Babes, it may not be for everyone, but for those who are a fan of Ilana Glazer's eccentric characters, Michelle Buteau's positivity, paired with Pamela Adlon's ability to find funny and otherwise mundane, this is perhaps one of the best depictions of what it's like to become a mom, from the highs to the vomit-inducing lows.